this is Keelin and right now I'm going to be going ahead and talking to you about the film that just came out recently, Mirror, Mirror. That was starring Lily Collins, Julia Roberts, several other major actors, including Sean Bean. Now, I have to say, when the movie first started, it was hilarious. I love the Queen's monologue, Julia Roberts, her monologue in the beginning as she's like describing some of the story was pretty funny. Making fun of Snow White's name as being pretentious and other little quips that she made during her little opening storybook was very, very refreshing, actually. I liked the movie. I love Lily Collins. She's beautiful. She's amazing. I know there's been a lot of like bad sayings going around about the very thick eyebrows that are way too thick, but I actually love them. I love her look. She's new. She's got her own style. She's beautiful. She's a great actress. And I think we're going to be seeing way more of her. She's already been in City of Bones now. And I think we're just going to keep seeing her popping up in a lot of major movies. Now, Mirror, Mirror was funny in a sense of it wasn't a normal telling of Snow White. It didn't do overly well in theaters. It did come out around the same time as Snow White and the Huntsman. I know when Snow White and the Huntsman came out and Mirror, Mirror came out, when I went to go see one of the Snow White movies, my own personal pick, based off of like previews, I went and saw Snow White and the Huntsman in theaters. Did not see Mirror, Mirror in theaters. However, I do now regret it because on its own, it is a very good movie. I think they just decided to kind of go into theaters at the wrong time. They were competing with Snow White and the Huntsman versus Mirror, Mirror. And their own little preview wasn't exactly the best preview in the world. It was very different because the prince wasn't as, I don't want to say he wasn't as princely, he was just a little bit less intelligent feeling for me for some reason, and maybe it was just the whole potion he ends up drinking that makes him like a dog for like a portion of the movie. Kind of just made me feel like he was just a little bit dumbed down anyways. He sends his servant off in the beginning of the movie to go get help, and the servant, for some reason, doesn't show up till like 4 days later when everything's over. So I was like, yeah, it kind of wasn't a very big rush, was it? Other things about the movie, it was very comedic. I liked the giant dwarves, and even the prince says, what, they're giant dwarves. Sometimes they're really tall, and sometimes they're small. And I thought that was really funny. There were some other things that were said, just little quips now and then that were just, it was very comedic. It wasn't all very action and depressed and, you know, it was more of a fun kind of, like taking one of the kids' movies and putting it into a live action and keeping it kind of really fresh and fun and young. The costumes were great. I loved how the queen was sticking the prince in like these ridiculous outfits just because she felt like spending tons and tons of money on looking ridiculous. Half the time her dresses were ridiculous too. Her wedding dress, hideous. It was absolutely hideous. I would never wear anything like that, and if I ever saw somebody trying to pick that to wear to a wedding, I might slap them just to make sure that they had actually looked at the dress. But it was to go with her character. It was supposed to be overly lavish and just, even though it was overdone, and that was what it was supposed to be, it was overdone. She's vain. She only cared about her own beauty and the beauty of what she had, and just her own vanity was her downfall. I do know how the king fell in love with her. She used a love potion to begin with, so that kind of makes sense. The apple never really came in to the whole Snow White thing until like right at the end. It made me feel like it was kind of like dropped in there, like, oh yeah, Snow White's supposed to have an apple. She didn't bite it and get poisoned. Nothing bad ever came about with the apple, at the very end she says some really snide comment, kind of a similar comment to what the Queen had said to her in the beginning of, it's best to know when you've been beaten, and hands her back the apple and says, why don't you take a bite? And that was kind of like the biggest, like, oh my gosh, Snow White, you're supposed to be this innocent, cute little, I'm so kind, I'd never hurt a fly, and you basically bitch slapped the Queen, like, well, age before beauty, and it's best to know when you've been beat, eat the apple, cunt. I was like, yeah, nice, I'd have said that too. But I'm not overly nice, so it was very nice to see her do it. If you watch through the credits, there is a Bollywood dance for the wedding for the Prince and Snow White. Very, very fun, actually. I liked it a lot, and I've never seen anything Bollywood before, which means now I'm probably going to go watch a few things that are from Bollywood. What else did I like about the movie? The costumes. The dwarves were hilarious. Even the names. Chuck is my favorite. They veered away from the names, so like we all know the different ones as Grumpy and Dopey and Sleepy and Sneezy, but if you actually pay attention, even though they named them something else, they still had Grumpy and Dopey and Sleepy and Sneezy, and I mean the different dwarves were kind of still based off of the originals. Now there was one dwarf that just kept getting not on my nerves, but I couldn't help but laugh every time he spoke or did anything, and that was I call him the horny dwarf. You'll notice him. He's the one that every 5 seconds he just wants to be in Snow White's pants. Every 5 seconds. And he's jealous all the time. You'll be able to point him out. He's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I like the plot when it gets to the whole point of her going and chasing after the beast. I don't know why she locked the door on everybody else. I always feel like that's kind of the stupid, like, classic heroine thing of, oh, let me lock all these heroes and great warriors in the closet, and I'll go try to be brave for once. No, you can be brave, just, you should probably take the army with you. It just kind of felt like that classic, like, stupid princess-y type reaction that they all seem to have, and I was liking how a lot of princess movies were veering away from that. The Snow White and the Huntsman, for instance. Kirsten didn't just leave the entire army behind. She joined the army. She took the army and went back to get her kingdom back. And I liked that. I liked the fierceness of it. It wasn't weak. What this Snow White did to me seemed weak. It wasn't brave or valiant. It was stupid and weak. You only go off by yourself when you know you're going to die, or when you want to die. And you only go off by yourself when you're being stupid. However, it ended up working out in her favor, because technically if the warriors had come with her to attack the beast, she would have ended up killing her father. The beast ends up being her father. Spoilers. Sorry, I'll post that in the comments before I even make the video. But the beast ends up being the dad, and she only recognizes him because of the necklace, the moon necklace that was his. And so she ends up breaking the curse, and the dad ends up being Sean Bean. Now when he pops up, it's the middle of winter, so it's snowing, and okay, for any Game of Thrones fans, he's wearing a giant crown and this regal outfit, and I kept begging and pleading that at some point within the next 5 seconds he was going to say, winter is coming. And I just couldn't help it. I was like, oh my god, you're standing in the middle of winter and you're wearing all of that. You have to have at least said it. And maybe in the special features he at least did it once, but it would have been great to have had it be a line, even though it's from another series. It's just, it was him, big crown, lots of regal royalty stuff on, and he just looked like he was back. So I would have liked to have heard that. It doesn't happen, but I kept imagining it. Overall, really good movie. Julia Roberts was funny. She played the role really well of being a bitch. But most women can play that role very easily, no matter what. I liked it just as much as I liked Kristen Stewart. Now, I didn't cry for this one. This wasn't really a big, like, sobby movie, mainly because nobody really dies. No, but actually, let me correct that. No one dies in this film. No one dies. Except for in the very beginning, the mom died at childbirth. That's the one death I can give you. She died at childbirth. So there was nothing really sad to cry about. Like, maybe it was sad for 5 seconds when, oh, boo-hoo, I got kicked out and I have to go live with these bandit dwarves, or, oh, boo-hoo, I found out that she's the reason that she wants to kill me. And it was more or less just kind of like, everybody knows that she gets dragged out into the woods and she's supposed to have her heart cut out. Everybody knows that part of the story. There was no, like, real saddening emotions that really brought me down to that depressing level that Snow White and the Huntsman did. But it was still overall good. I think that this is the Snow White that you should have been taking your kids to. It's the big frilly dresses, the ball gowns. I mean, she was gorgeous in that swan like type dress with the swan on her head. Some of the dresses were a little bit funny and a little ridiculous, but I mean, Snow White was always beautiful. She was always gorgeous. Everything she wore was perfect. This is the kind of movie my daughter will be watching, and she's 4. And I like it because it is the childhood Snow White brought into film with slight minor changes. The minor changes do annoy me. The apple not being involved, the whole True Love's kiss was swapped backwards. So it did kind of annoy me a little bit, but change is a good thing, and it wasn't like a major big deal that was going to, like, kill me. It just meant that I think the only thing that really pissed me off was the apple was thrown in at the end. Great apple scene, by the way. Go ahead and watch it, because it's good. It's a good apple scene. I'll just say that. But other than that, okay film. Definitely buy it on DVD if you have kids. Rent it. It should be out on Netflix eventually. Other than that, go ahead and let me know in the comments what you thought of the movie if you've watched it, what you will think of the movie once you've watched it, and give me any suggestions of what you'd like me to watch and talk about next. Other than that, I'll see you next time.